Welcome back to the deep dive. We're here to plunge into some really fascinating topics and, pull out the key insights. And today, well, we're starting something truly epic, a journey that really sets the stage for so much. Our sources today, we're looking at the foundational stories in Genesis and then heading straight into the outline of what comes next in Exodus. And our mission really is to go beyond just listing events. We want to unpack core stories, major figures, and maybe find some surprising connections. All the things that shape this early history, right from creation up to this journey towards freedom. It's more than just ancient texts, wouldn't you say? It feels like it gets to the heart of human experience, family, even how nations get started.
Well, absolutely. And what I find really compelling about how we're tackling this is the structure. We're starting with those rich, detailed stories in Genesis,
Yeah.
digging into what they mean, and then we'll shift gears a bit, looking at Exodus more thematically. It really shows the flow, the progression of this massive story. You see how these early accounts just lay all the groundwork for everything that follows, especially how a group identity starts to form.
Okay, let's do it. Starting right at the beginning. The 6 days of creation. Now, for anyone familiar with Genesis, it's more than just a list, right?
Mm,
What really jumps out when you dig deep is the order of it all. It's this move from, chaos, formlessness to structure, from that watery deep, then light, then the sky, heaven, then dry land, seas, plants.
right. Then sun, moon, stars, luminaries for signs and seasons.
Exactly. And then the living creatures, and finally, humanity. Male and female, made in God's image, given this dominion, this responsibility. Plus that original diet plants, fruits, and the final word on it all.
Very good. Yeah, and that raises a huge question right away. What does that mean in the divine image? It's got to be more than just looking similar, right? It suggests this capacity for, well, reason, morality, relationships, creativity, qualities that mirror the divine in a way. It underpins that whole idea of stewardship and, honestly, the inherent dignity of people. That was a pretty radical idea back then.
But then, almost immediately, you get this twist. The rupture in the Garden of Eden. That very good status doesn't last long. God gave that one clear rule about the tree of knowing good and bad. Don't eat from it. The day you eat from it, you will certainly die. Pretty clear.
Seems clear, yeah.
Yeah.
But then enters the serpent, described as most cautious, which is interesting phrasing. And it works on the woman, questioning God, promising this godlike knowledge.
And she eats, then gives it to her husband, and he eats too. And the consequences are immediate. Suddenly they realize they're naked, start scrambling for coverings.
And then God's pronouncements. Pain in childbirth for the woman, the husband ruling over her. For the man, the ground itself is cursed because of him. He's going to have to work hard, sweat, just to eat until he returns to dust.
Right. And Adam names her Eve, living one, and they get clothed, but now with animal skins, not fig leaves. A definite shift.
And if you connect that to the bigger picture, I mean, those choices in the garden, they're not just plot points. They introduce everything else. Consequence, responsibility, the whole human struggle, that tension between what God wants and what humans choose. It echoes through the entire rest of the story. It shapes everyone, everything.
And that struggle escalates so fast. The first family story, Cain and Abel. Cain brings an offering, God doesn't approve, and Cain gets angry, really angry.
Which leads tragically to the first murder. Cain attacks Abel out in the field, kills him.
Then God asks him, where's your brother? And Cain's response is just defiant. Am I my brother's keeper? Or guardian, as some translations put it.
And the consequence? Banished. A wanderer, a fugitive, cursed from the ground that drank his brother's blood.
And it doesn't stop there. You get Lamech later boasting to his wives about killing a man just for wounding him. It shows this downward spiral of violence,
A definite escalation. But there's a glimmer of hope, maybe. With the birth of Seth, Eve sees him as a replacement, another offspring for Abel.
Right. And as the story moves on, we hit this period with these incredible lifespans. Adam living 930 years. Methuselah, 969.
Yeah, those numbers are staggering.
Yeah.
And they make you wonder, right, what was different about that pre-flood world? Are these literal years? Symbolic?
It definitely paints a picture of a different era. And then there's Enoch. He walked with the true God, and then he just was no more. God took him. Very mysterious.
Unique figure, definitely. And then Noah's father, Lamech, names him Noah, meaning rest or consolation.
Yeah.
He actually says he hopes Noah will bring comfort from the work in the cursed ground. So there's this awareness of the hardship already.
Yeah, that's a key point. This period, it's really setting the stage for a huge change. The population's growing, yes, but so is the wickedness.
Profound wickedness. And you get this startling idea of God actually regretting making humans, deciding on a judgment. The world is just spiraling.
And this leads us straight into the Great Flood narrative. It gets really specific here. It talks about the sons of the true God taking human wives and their children being the Nephilim mighty ones, men of fame.
Right, and this seems linked to the increasing wickedness. The text is blunt. Man's wickedness was great. Every thought, every inclination was only bad all the time.
Which leads to God's decision to wipe men off the surface of the ground. Just a total reset.
But not quite total, because Noah found favor in the eyes of Jehovah. He's the exception.
And he gets these incredibly detailed instructions for the ark. Made of resinous wood, specific wood, compartments inside, covered in tar inside and out.
And the dimensions are precise. 300 cubits long,
That's
50
it.
wide, 30 high. Huge.
Plus the command to bring animals, 2 of every kind, male and female. But 7 pairs of the clean animals. And food, all kinds of food.
The level of detail is fascinating.
Then the flood itself. A world-altering event. Noah is 600 years old. Rain for 40 days, 40 nights. But it's not just rain. The springs of the vast watery deep burst open. The floodgates of the heavens were opened. It sounds cataclysmic.
Totally. And the waters cover everything, even the highest mountains. By 15 cubits, it says.
So yeah, only Noah and everyone and everything in the ark survive.
Then the water starts to go down. The ark rests on the mountains of Ararat.
And Noah sends out the raven, then the dove. The dove eventually comes back with that olive leaf. A sign of hope, right? Receding waters.
A powerful symbol. And eventually the earth dries out completely. By Noah's 601st year.
It's just such a powerful story. Judgment, yeah, but also preservation. A totally fresh start.
Absolutely. And those precise details we mentioned, the arc dimensions, the timing, they really give it this sense of, well, almost a historical account. Some people have pointed out those arc proportions. They actually align with what creates a very stable vessel, even by modern standards. Is that coincidence? Divine engineering, literary skill.
Makes you think.
It definitely does. And it forces you to ask, how does this global reset change things? Humanity's relationship with God, with the earth itself, new rules, new beginnings.
And new rules come right away. A new covenant after the flood. God blesses Noah and his sons, tells them, be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth. Same command as creation, but now post-flood.
But with a major change in diet. Now, every moving animal may serve as food. That's new.
Big change, but with a key restriction. Flesh with its life, its blood, you must not eat.
That introduces this concept of the sacredness of blood representing life.
Yeah, tied directly to the value of human life. Anyone shedding man's blood, by man will his own blood be shed, for in God's image he made man. Sets a principle of justice.
And the sign of this covenant, the rainbow, a promise. Never again will all flesh be destroyed by the waters of a flood. Such an enduring image.
So humanity gets this fresh start, this promise. But the story of Noah's sons shows problems resurface quickly. Shem, Ham, and Japheth, they're the ancestors of everyone, the text says. But then you have that incident with Noah getting drunk, Ham's actions.
Leading to the curse of Canaan. It shows that even a global reset doesn't fix the underlying human flaws. They pop right back up.
And then comes Nimrod, described as a mighty hunter in opposition to Jehovah. He starts building kingdoms. Babel, Erech, Akkad.
Which leads directly to the Tower of Babel, a really iconic story.
Everyone has one language. They decide, let's build a city, a tower reaching the heavens. Make a name for ourselves so we won't be scattered.
It's about human ambition, unity for their own glory, maybe defying God's command to spread out.
And God's response? Confuse their language. Scatter them across the earth. That's why it's called Babel Confused.
A powerful illustration of that tension, a human pride versus divine purpose.
Okay, so from that broad, almost universal history, the focus narrows dramatically. It zooms right in on one family line, Abraham's. It starts with his father, Terah, leaving Ur of the Chaldeans, heading for Canaan, but stopping in Haran.
And it's in Haran, or maybe just after leaving Ur, depending on how you read it, that Abram gets this monumental call from God.
Yeah, the promise, I'll make you a great nation, I'll bless you, make your name great, and the kicker, all nations on earth will be blessed through you.
It's huge. Everything that follows hinges on this promise.
But it's not straightforward. Famine drives Abram to Egypt. He tells people Sarai is his sister.
Which causes big problems for Pharaoh's household. Plagues strike.
But Abram leaves Egypt very rich. Livestock, silver, gold. Then he and his nephew Lot have to separate because they're both too wealthy, their herds are too big.
And after Lot leaves, God reaffirms the promise to Abram. The land, descendants like the dust of the earth, countless. a lasting possession.
This repetition of the promise is key, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's hammered home again and again. Despite Abram's flaws, despite the challenges, the promise remains central. It drives everything. Land and offspring, that's the core.
Then we get this really interesting encounter with Melchizedek. Abraham rescues Lot from some warring kings, and then Melchizedek shows up, king of Salem, priest of the Most High God.
Brings out bread and wine, blesses Abraham, and Abraham gives him a tenth of everything.
It's kind of mysterious, right? This figure appearing almost out of nowhere.
Very mysterious. A priest king, before the formal priesthood is established through Aaron, and the bread and wine. It resonates with later symbolism, obviously.
And right after that, Abraham shows his integrity, refuses any reward from the king of Sodom, doesn't want anyone saying, I made Abraham rich.
Yeah, that's a strong statement about relying on God's blessing, not human patrons.
So the promise continues to unfold, but in ways that really test faith. Sarai is barren, so she gives her servant Hagar to Abraham. Hagar has Ishmael, Abraham's 86.
Then later, God institutes the covenant of circumcision, a physical sign for all males.
And their names change. Abram becomes Abraham, father of a multitude. Sarai becomes Sarah.
The name changes signify that new identity, that destiny tied to the promise.
And then comes the most incredible promise, Isaac's birth. Abraham is 100, Sarah is 90.
And Sarah laughs. You can't blame her, really. Will I really have a child at 90? Will Abraham at 100?
It's such a human moment. That laughter captures the sheer impossibility of it from a human perspective.
Exactly. It highlights that tension between God's promise and what seems possible to us. Faith, bridging that gap, and sometimes, yeah, maybe doubting or laughing along the way.
Then there's Abraham's intercession for Sodom and Gomorrah, a really powerful scene. God reveals the plan to judge the cities because of the outcry over their sin.
And Abraham starts bargaining, boldly. What if there are 50 righteous people? Will you sweep them away?
And he goes down step by step. 45, 40, 30, 20, finally 10. Asking that profound question. Will the judge of all the earth not do what is right?
It shows this developing relationship, this intimacy, where Abraham feels he can actually challenge or question God, appealing to his own justice.
But in the end, they don't find 10 righteous. The angels go to Sodom. Lot takes them in. The men of the city surround the house, demanding Lot hand over the visitors to assault them. It's horrifying.
Yeah, it depicts extreme wickedness. Lot even offers his daughters instead, which is also deeply disturbing. The angels have to intervene, striking the men blind.
They urge Lot and his family to flee. Don't look back. Don't stop.
But Lot hesitates. The angels literally grab their hands and pull them out. Compassion even in judgment.
Then the destruction. Sulfur and fire. The cities are wiped out.
And Lot's wife, she looks back, becomes that pillar of salt, a stark warning about longing for what's being judged.
And the aftermath is also difficult. Lot's daughters, thinking they're the only ones left, get their father drunk to preserve their family line, leading to Moab and Ben-Ammi.
Yeah, these stories don't shy away from the messy, often deeply uncomfortable aspects of human behavior, even among those supposedly saved.
Okay, now we reach maybe the climax of Abraham's story, the binding of Isaac. But first, another incident with Abimelech where Sarah is again presented as his sister.
Right, that pattern repeats. God intervenes again.
Then Isaac is born, finally. Sarah says, God has brought me laughter. His name, Isaac, even sounds like laughter.
A fulfillment of that promise that seemed impossible. But joy is quickly followed by conflict.
Ishmael is seen mocking Isaac. Sarah gets protective, demands Abraham send Hagar and Ishmael away.
And God tells Abraham to listen to Sarah, but also promises to make a nation from Ishmael too. So Abraham sends them off. Heartbreaking.
And then comes the ultimate test. God tells Abraham, take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and offer him as a burnt offering.
It's almost unbearable to read the journey to the mountain, Isaac carrying the wood.
And Isaac asks that question, Father, where is the sheep for the offering?
And Abraham's reply, God himself will provide the sheep, my son. What faith that must have taken, or desperation, or both.
He builds the altar, binds Isaac, raises the knife, and the angel stops him. Don't harm the boy.
And there's a ram caught in the thicket, the substitute sacrifice.
Abraham calls the place Jehovah-Jireh, the Lord will provide.
A name that echoes down through history.
Yeah.
It encapsulates that core theme, God's provision even in the darkest, most testing moments. It's foundational for understanding sacrifice and faith in this tradition.
God then reaffirms the blessing powerfully. Offspring like the stars, like the sand, victory over enemies, blessing for all nations through his offspring.
The test confirms the promise in a way.
Then Sarah dies at 127. And Abraham buys the cave of Machpelah. He insists on buying it from the Hittites, establishing a legal claim to a piece of the promised land for burial.
Securing that first foothold. It's a significant act.
So looking back at Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, these patriarchal stories, what's the takeaway? It's just so much human drama alongside divine promises.
Exactly. Flaws, faith, failures, incredible blessings. It's the messy reality of how a covenant relationship unfolds. Not idealized, but real.
Okay, moving to the next generation, Isaac. His story starts with finding a wife. Abraham sends his servant back to their relatives, specifically not wanting a Canaanite wife for Isaac.
And the servant prays for a very specific sign at the well. The woman who offers water to him and his camels. That's the one.
And Rebecca arrives, does exactly that. It's like divine choreography.
It really seems that way. The servant gives her gifts, gold ring, bracelets. Her family, Leban and Bethuel, see it too. This is from Jehovah.
And Rebecca is willing. I'm willing to go. Her family blesses her with this amazing blessing about becoming multitudes and possessing the gate of her enemies.
Echoing the promises to Abraham.
Isaac meets her, loves her, finds comfort after Sarah's death. It's a beautiful, seemingly divinely orchestrated beginning.
Yeah, it really underscores how faith and everyday life, even finding a spouse, are seen as intertwined with God's plan in these narratives. It's not separate.
But then, with Isaac and Rebekah's children, Jacob and Esau, rivalry starts right from the womb. Rebekah has a difficult pregnancy. The twins are struggling within her.
Esau's is born first. Red, hairy. Becomes a hunter, outdoorsy type. Jacob follows, holding Esau's heel. He's quieter, stays near the tents.
And the parental favoritism is right there. Isaac loves Esau for the food he brings. Rebekah loves Jacob.
Which sets up that famous incident. Esau comes back starving from hunting. Jacob's made stew.
And Esau trades his rights as the firstborn for a bowl of stew. The text says he despised the birthright, short-sighted to say the least.
It shows his character, valuing immediate gratification over long-term inheritance and promise.
This leads directly to Jacob's big deception. Isaac is old, blind, wants to give Esau the patriarchal blessing before he dies. But Rebekah overhears. She cooks up this plan for Jacob to impersonate Esau. Goat skins on his arms and neck to feel hairy, Esau's clothes for the smell.
Isaac is confused. The voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau. He's suspicious.
But he goes through with it, gives Jacob the blessing, fertility, abundance, mastery over his brothers.
And just as Jacob leaves, Esau arrives. His reaction is pure anguish. Bless me too, my father. But it's too late. Isaac says Jacob is blessed, and it stands.
Esau is filled with hatred, plans to kill Jacob once Isaac is dead.
So this raises that question again. What about deceit? Even if it fulfills prophecy because God had told Rebekah the older would serve the younger, look at the consequences. Decades of separation, fear, conflict.
Yeah, the family is fractured because of it. It's not portrayed as unambiguously good, even if it aligns with the divine plan. The human cost is high.
Some scholars really emphasize that complexity. Is Jacob a trickster hero? Or flawed but chosen? The text lets that tension sit there.
So Jacob has to flee. He heads towards Laban, his uncle, in Paddan-aram. And on the way, he stops for the night, uses a stone for a pillow, and has that incredible dream at Bethel.
The stairway or ladder reaching to heaven, angels going up and down, God standing beside him.
And God repeats the promise to him now. The land, descendants, divine presence and protection. I will not leave you until I've done what I have promised you.
It's a profound reassurance for Jacob, right when he's at his most vulnerable, fleeing for his life. He wakes up, calls the place Bethel, house of God, makes a vow.
His life with Laban, though, it's another complex chapter. He falls hard for Rachel, works 7 years for her. It seems like just a few days because he loves her so much.
But Laban pulls a switcheroo on the wedding night. Gives him Leah, the older sister, instead. Deception met with deception, maybe?
Maybe. Jacob has to work another 7 years for Rachel, so now he has 2 wives, sisters, and the rivalry starts.
Leah feels unloved, but God opens her womb. She has Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah. The core tribes start here.
Rachel is jealous, gives her servant Bilhah to Jacob. Dan and Naphtali are born.
Leah responds, gives her servant Zilpah, Gad, and Asher.
Then Leah has Issachar and Zebulun and a daughter Dinah.
And finally, Rachel conceives and bears Joseph.
It's a complicated, messy family situation, and Jacob's working for Laban all this time, dealing with Laban changing his wages constantly.
10 times, Jacob says later. But Jacob uses some cunning animal breeding techniques, apparently, and becomes very prosperous anyway. Flocks, servants, camels, donkeys.
Yeah, it's amazing how even amidst all this trickery and family drama, the blessing, the prosperity still comes through.
It really emphasizes that God's purpose seems to work through these flawed human dynamics, not just in spite of them. The promise unfolds in the middle of the mess.
Eventually, Jacob decides it's time to leave Laban. He hears Laban's sons grumbling, sees Laban's attitude change, and God tells him, "Return to the land of your fathers."
So he prepares to leave secretly. But Rachel, interestingly, steals her father's teraphim, these household idols. Why? Maybe superstition, maybe thinking they conferred inheritance rights. It's debated.
Laban chases after them, furious. But God warns Laban in a dream, "Don't say anything to Jacob, good or bad. Basically, don't interfere."
Laban confronts Jacob, searches for the idols. Rachel cleverly hides them by sitting on them, claiming she's menstruating.
Jacob, unaware Rachel stole them, gets furious at Laban's accusations, defends his 20 years of hard, honest service.
They end up making a covenant, a boundary pact, a gleed, witness pile, a tense truce.
But Jacob's biggest fear is still ahead, meeting Esau. He's terrified Esau is coming with 400 men to kill him. He divides his family and flocks into two groups, hoping one might escape, sends lavish gifts ahead to appease Esau, prays fervently.
Then comes that night. Jacob sends his family across the river Jabbok and he's left alone. And a man wrestles with him until dawn.
An intense struggle. Jacob's hip is dislocated, but he refuses to let go until the man blesses him.
And the man asks his name. Jacob. And he says, "Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with humans and have overcome."
Israel, he struggles with God, or God struggles. A transformative moment. He wrestled, endured, demanded a blessing, and received a new identity.
It marks a real shift. From Jacob, a deceiver, the supplanter, to Israel, the one who contended with God and prevailed.
The reunion with Esau after all that fear is incredibly moving. Esau runs to him, embraces him, kisses him. They weep.
Forgiveness and reconciliation after decades of bitterness. Esau even refuses the gifts at first. It's a powerful resolution.
Jacob then settles near Shechem, but peace is short-lived. The terrible incident with his daughter Dinah being raped by the local prince.
And the furious, deceitful revenge by her brothers Simeon and Levi. They pretend to agree to intermarriage if the Shechemite men get circumcised.
And then, while the men are recovering and vulnerable, Simeon and Levi attack, killing every male in the city, plundering it.
Jacob is horrified by their violence, fearing repercussions. It's a brutal episode, showing the capacity for violence within Jacob's own family. Even after wrestling with God, human problems persist.
Right. The journey continues. Jacob purifies his household, gets rid of foreign idols. On the way to Ephrath, Rachel gives birth to Benjamin, her second son, but dies in childbirth. A great sorrow. Jacob buries her there.
Then the text lists the 12 sons of Israel, the foundation of the tribes.
Isaac finally dies at 180, and Jacob and Esau together bury him. A final moment of filial duty for the brothers.
And Genesis then includes a detailed genealogy of Esau's descendants, the Edomites, before fully returning to Jacob's line.
So looking back at Genesis as a whole, creation, fall, flood, Babel, the patriarchs, what really stands out for me, it's this constant interplay. Human choices, divine sovereignty, promises made, promises tested, a family slowly becoming a people.
Absolutely. It explores these deep, universal themes: family conflict, faith, doubt, betrayal, forgiveness, the weight of the past, the hope for the future. It's not just history. It's theology woven into narrative. It asks tough questions about God, about humanity, that people still wrestle with.
Okay, now let's dive into Joseph. Probably one of the most famous, most dramatic stories in Genesis. Starts with Joseph, 17. Clearly, Jacob's favorite son gets that special robe, the coat of many colors.
And he has these dreams. His brothers' sheaves of grain bowing down to his sheaf, then the sun, moon, and 11 stars bowing to him.
He tells his brothers, which probably wasn't the wisest move. It fuels their jealousy and hatred.
Intense hatred. They see him coming out to the fields one day, and they plot to kill him.
Reuben, the eldest, talks them out of murder, suggests throwing him into a dry well instead, hoping to rescue him later.
But then Judah has another idea. Why kill him and get blood on our hands? Let's sell him. Practical, but utterly cold.
So they sell their own brother to passing Midianite or Ishmaelite traders for 20 pieces of silver. He's taken off to Egypt as a slave.
And they cover up their crime. Dip Joseph's precious robe in goat's blood, take it back to Jacob.
Jacob assumes a wild animal killed him. He's devastated, inconsolable, mourns for years.
It's just raw betrayal. peak family dysfunction. But as the story unfolds, you see this larger purpose at work.
Yeah, Joseph's story in Egypt is remarkable. He's bought by Potiphar, captain of Pharaoh's guard, and the text stresses, Jehovah was with Joseph. He succeeds, gains Potiphar's complete trust, runs his entire household.
But success brings new challenges. Potiphar's wife tries to seduce him repeatedly.
Joseph resists, famously saying, how could I do this great wickedness and sin against God? He frames it as loyalty to God, not just Potiphar.
She reacts furiously when he rejects her final advance, falsely accusing him of attempted rape. Potiphar throws him in prison.
So from favored son to slave to trusted manager, now to prisoner, what a roller coaster.
But even in prison, Jehovah was with Joseph. He gains the chief jailer's favor.
And he uses his God-given ability to interpret dreams. The cupbearer and the baker, Pharaoh's officials also imprisoned, have disturbing dreams.
Joseph interprets them correctly. Restoration for the cupbearer, execution for the baker. He tells the cupbearer, remember me when things go well for you.
But the cupbearer forgets. For 2 whole years, Joseph languishes in prison. Forgotten.
That delay is crucial, though, isn't it? It sets the stage for the perfect moment later.
Exactly. Then Pharaoh has his dreams. The 7 fat cows eaten by 7 thin cows. The 7 healthy ears of grain swallowed by 7 thin ears. No one in Egypt can interpret them.
And that's when the cupbearer remembers, oh yeah, there was this Hebrew guy in prison.
So Joseph is summoned, cleans himself up, stands before Pharaoh. He's clear. Interpretations belong to God. God will give Pharaoh a favorable answer.
He interprets the dreams. 7 years of massive abundance, followed by 7 years of devastating famine.
And he doesn't just interpret, he gives wise advice. Appoint someone smart to collect grain during the good years, store it up for the famine.
Pharaoh is impressed. Can we find anyone like this, a man in whom is the Spirit of God? He sees Joseph's wisdom as divine.
And just like that, Joseph goes from prisoner to prime minister, second in command over all Egypt. Gets the signet ring, fine clothes, gold chain, the second chariot. People shout Avrek before him. Incredible reversal.
From the pit to the palace, literally. It's the ultimate example of providence in the text, God working through suffering, betrayal, injustice to bring about salvation and position Joseph exactly where he needs to be.
Joseph marries, has 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, during the plentiful years. He manages the grain collection efficiently. Then the famine hits. Just as predicted, it's severe, affects the whole region, including Canaan, where Jacob and his family live.
And Pharaoh's instruction to the Egyptians, and eventually everyone, go to Joseph, do whatever he tells you.
This sets up the reunion. Jacob hears there's grain in Egypt, sends 10 sons down to buy some. But he keeps Benjamin, Rachel's other son, home, afraid something will happen to him too.
Joseph recognizes them immediately. They don't recognize him, this powerful Egyptian official. He remembers his dreams from all those years ago.
And he tests them, speaks harshly, accuses them of being spies.
Throws them in prison for 3 days, then says one must stay behind Simeon while the others go get Benjamin to prove they're telling the truth.
They're terrified. They see it as judgment for what they did to Joseph years ago. Their money mysteriously reappears in their grain sacks, adding to their fear.
Jacob refuses to let Benjamin go at first. Reuben offers his own sons' lives, but Jacob won't budge.
But the famine is harsh. They run out of food again. Judah steps up, makes this passionate guarantee for Benjamin's safety, offering himself as surety. Jacob finally relents.
So they go back with double money, gifts, and Benjamin. Joseph sees Benjamin, is overcome with emotion, has to leave the room to weep.
He hosts a meal for them, gives Benjamin 5 times the portion of the others. Another test, seeing if they're jealous again.
Seems likely.
Yeah.
Then the final test. He has his silver cup hidden in Benjamin's grain sack, sends his steward after them.
They find the cup. The brothers are distraught, tear their clothes, return to the city.
And Judah makes this incredibly moving speech. Explains how Jacob's life is bound up with Benjamin's, how losing Benjamin would kill their father. He offers himself as a slave in Benjamin's place.
That's the turning point. Judah, who suggested selling Joseph, now offers his life for Benjamin. It shows genuine change, genuine remorse, and responsibility.
And Joseph can't hold back anymore. He sends all the Egyptians out, breaks down weeping, and reveals himself. I am Joseph. Is my father still alive?
His brothers are stunned, speechless, probably terrified.
But Joseph reassures them. Don't be distressed or angry with yourselves because you sold me here. And then the key line. It was not you who sent me here, but God.
Wow. God sent me ahead of you to preserve life, to save your lives by a great deliverance. He reframes the entire narrative.
You intended evil against me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. That's the theological heart of the Joseph story.
So, Pharaoh hears the news, is pleased, provides wagons and provisions for Jacob's entire family, 70 people in total, to move to Egypt. They settle in the best land, Goshen. Jacob meets Pharaoh, blesses him.
Joseph continues to manage the famine brilliantly, eventually acquiring all the land of Egypt for Pharaoh in exchange for food.
Before Jacob dies, he makes Joseph promise to bury him back in Canaan in the cave of Machpelah. He then blesses Joseph's sons, Ephraim and Manasseh.
Purposefully crossing his hands to give the greater blessing to Ephraim, the younger son. Another reversal of primogeniture, echoing Jacob's own story.
Then Jacob gives his famous deathbed prophecies over all 12 sons, outlining their futures, their tribal characteristics. Judah gets the promise of kingship, the scepter not departing until Shiloh comes.
These prophecies shape the future identity and roles of the tribes of Israel.
Jacob dies. Joseph leads a huge funeral procession back to Canaan to bury him in Machpelah, fulfills his promise.
After Jacob's death, the brothers worry Joseph might finally take revenge.
But Joseph reassures them again, repeating that theme. Don't be afraid. Am I in the place of God? You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good. Forgiveness is complete.
Joseph lives to 110, sees his great-grandchildren, and before he dies, he makes the Israelites promise to carry his bones out of Egypt when God eventually leads them back to the Promised Land. Faith looking forward.
What an incredible ending to Genesis. The family is safe, prosperous in Egypt, but the promise of Canaan remains. Joseph's final words point to the future, and that's where the scene shifts dramatically, right? As Genesis closes, we move into the outline of Exodus. The whole dynamic changes.
It really does. Genesis is very much about the family, the individuals, the promises given. Exodus immediately zooms out to the nation, the people, and the struggle for liberation. It picks up the thread, but the challenges are entirely new.
Yeah, Exodus starts centuries later. The Israelites have multiplied incredibly in Egypt, just as God promised Abraham. They've become numerous, strong.
But then, a new king over Egypt arises who did not know Joseph. That connection, that favor Joseph earned, is gone.
And this Pharaoh sees their numbers as a threat. So he oppresses them, brutal slave labor, making their lives bitter, trying to suppress their growth.
He even orders the Hebrew midwives, Shiphrah and Puah, to kill all newborn boys.
But they fear God more than Pharaoh. They disobey, saving the babies, courageous women.
Which leads to the birth of Moses. His mother hides him, then sets him adrift in a basket on the Nile. He's found by Pharaoh's daughter, adopted into the very household that's oppressing his people. Incredible irony.
Moses grows up Egyptian royalty but knows he's Hebrew. He kills an Egyptian overseer beating a Hebrew slave, has to flee Egypt.
Ends up in Midian, marries Zipporah, becomes a shepherd. Seems like his story might end there, in exile.
But then the crucial turning point. The Israelites are groaning under the slavery, and the text says, God heard their groaning, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob.
That remembrance is key. The promises made centuries before in Genesis are now coming to the forefront again, driving the action.
This leads to Moses' encounter at Mount Horeb, the burning bush on fire, but not consumed.
God speaks from the bush, reveals his name, YHWH. I am who I am, or I will be who I will be, a name signifying his eternal presence and power.
And he commissions Moses, go back to Egypt, tell Pharaoh, let my people go.
Moses is full of self-doubt. Who am I? What if they don't believe me? I'm not a good speaker, slow of speech and tongue. Very relatable hesitation.
God gives him signs to perform. The staff becoming a serpent, his hand becoming leprous, then clean, water turning to blood, promises to be with his mouth, eventually agrees to let Aaron, his brother, be his spokesman.
So Moses and Aaron go. They confront Pharaoh, demand the release.
Pharaoh's response, he scoffs, who is Jehovah that I should obey him? And he makes the Israelites work even harder. No straw provided, but same quota of bricks. Oppression intensifies.
Seems like a setback. But God renews the promise to Moses. Tells him he will deliver them with an outstretched arm and mighty judgments. Sets the stage for the plagues.
So this outline, even just the beginning of Exodus, it clearly shows this massive shift. From family history to national liberation drama, it's all about fulfilling that ancient covenant promise on a grand scale.
Exactly. It's the direct continuation, showing that despite centuries of silence, despite immense suffering and oppression, God's plan, rooted in those promises from Genesis, is still unfolding, moving towards redemption.
And looking just slightly ahead in that Exodus outline, you see these monumental events lining up. The 10 plagues, each challenging an Egyptian god.
Leading to the 10th plague, the death of the firstborn, and the institution of Passover. That specific ritual of the lamb, the blood on the doorposts, marking out God's people for salvation.
Which finally breaks Pharaoh's resistance. The Exodus begins, ends 430 years of dwelling in Egypt.
Then the instructions about dedicating the firstborn to God, the journey towards the Red Sea, Pharaoh changing his mind, pursuing them.
The miraculous Red Sea crossing, Israelites saved, Egyptians drowned, a defining moment of deliverance.
Followed by the songs of victory, Moses' song, Miriam's song, celebration.
But then, the wilderness challenges begin immediately. Bitter water, complaints about food.
Leading to God providing manna and quail, water from a rock, testing and provision.
Conflict with the Amalekites. Jethro's advice on leadership structure.
And it all culminates at Mount Sinai, where Israel receives its identity, a kingdom of priests and a holy nation.
A kingdom of priests, that's huge. It means the whole nation is called to represent God to the world, to be this living example of God's character and ways. Not just a select few, it sets their purpose on a global stage.
Absolutely foundational. And it's there they receive the Ten Commandments, the moral core, and the beginnings of the law, the judicial decisions that will structure their society as God's covenant people.
Wow. What a journey. From Adam and Eve in the garden, through all the messy, complex lives of the patriarchs, Joseph's saga, and then setting the stage for Exodus. It's just immense.
It really is. You see these threads running all the way through covenant, promise, human failure, divine faithfulness, judgment, redemption. They're not just ancient stories. They grapple with themes that are still incredibly relevant. Family dynamics, betrayal, forgiveness, finding purpose in suffering, the nature of faith itself.
Yeah, and as we saw just sketching out Exodus, those early Genesis promises, they don't just fade away. They become the driving force behind this huge national drama, this forging of an identity through hardship and miracle.
The continuity is powerful. The promises made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob become the basis for the liberation and formation of the entire nation of Israel.
So as we wrap up this deep dive for today, what really stays with you? Thinking about these origin stories creation, the first families, the patriarchs, Joseph,
Yeah.
how do they resonate? Do you see patterns in human nature and family life and the struggle between hope and hardship that still feel familiar? And what about that idea of an enduring promise, a divine plan unfolding even through centuries of waiting and difficulty? Something to think about.